It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Chat, this is episode 523. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hello.
And Kodra.
I've been here the whole time.
I think I made it 3 seasons when I was watching it the other day, trying to catch up.
You've got a lot of good seasons ahead of you if you were starting with the first 3.
Yeah.
Although some of the first 3 seasons are just some classic jokes.
So the one I was about halfway through when I had to stop watching was the first pandemic season.
Okay.
That was entertaining.
Did you get to I can't remember which sequence it was, but Who Am I?
Yes.
That's a good one.
We for anyone that does not follow the nonsense we're talking about Dropout TV and God, I don't even remember what the name of the game show is. Game Changer. Yeah.
The show where the game changes every show.
And the contestants don't know the rules.
There's very much you don't know what you're signing up for. Sometimes like discovering the rules is more a part of the game. Sometimes it's just like, oh, you're going to be surprised about what's going on.
Yeah, I have noticed that they tend to put people well geared for that game on a game.
They definitely do that, yes. Like there is definitely casting, and in the behind the scenes they talk about how they decide who would be a good contestant for this particular design of a game.
So the other television thing, I still call it television, even though, it's mostly streaming. The other television thing that I want to talk about tonight is today was Eurovision.
Yay.
And I don't know how many years I have been attempting to watch the stream in one form or another. But for a while now.
It's been at least 6 or 7.
And like Eurovision is interesting. And quite honestly, the weirder the act, the happier I am. But this show was, I don't know, like, I mean, it didn't have that many really interesting standout acts. Like there were a lot of good songs, but there were only a couple that were really over the top entertainment value. And that's kind of sad. However, there was an event that happened that I want to talk about.
That was unequivocally the best part of Eurovision this year. And it wasn't any of the contestants.
Yeah. Okay. So background, in 2023, there was a artist named Korea that did this song Cha 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 that was kind of a fun party rock clubbing anthem kind of thing, and it was delightful and it was hilarious and it should have won. But it basically got second place behind Loreen, which was the most boring, recycled pop ballad thing ever.
Mm.
And the internet was sad.
Yep.
The internet loved Cha Cha Cha.
And
so
they brought that act back last year.
Yeah. Then, like last year during the 2024 show, there was another fan favorite act from Croatia named Baby Lasagna.
What?
Singing this rap metal kind of thing about leaving home and saying goodbye to his cat, and like it was a charming little song and it was funny.
Yep. It was like leaving the countryside, I'm gonna sell my cow and go to the city.
Yeah, it was great. It also was a fan favorite that got second, and I can't like knock the act that got first that year, Milo, because like I liked Milo too. Nemo. I don't know why I said Milo. But so we zoom forward to this year, and you have these two acts that were wildly popular, both got second place, and I think it was on Thursday during the last round of semifinals, they shadow dropped a collaboration between the two of them.
What?
Whoa.
Called Eurodab, talking about bringing back the dab. And it's funny. It's hilarious. And so during the like tail end of voting, they have a bunch of like bring back acts from the past, a lot of stuff from like 70s, 80s, 90s acts that I don't know because I haven't been listening that long.
Korea last year, like they played Cha 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 again last year because it had been so popular. They brought it back as like one of the filler acts while they're waiting for people to vote. It was great.
This year they set up this whole fighting game motif with Baby Lasagna and a bunch of people all in blue outfits on one side of the screen. And like the stage had this interesting translucent screen so that they could project things on it. And so they projected like a life bar and a name just like in a fighting game. So Baby Lasagna was on one side, Korea was on the other side, all in green from the Cha 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 video, and well, like yellowish green. And they basically like had a mashup of their two songs, quote unquote, battling, and then it blended into the dab song at the end. And it was the best thing that happened during the show, hands down.
That sounds kind of amazing.
It was so good.
So good. Yeah, we were watching it, just like my jaw dropped when that whole thing started. And the mashup was legit extremely good. Like it was so well done and so fun.
Like what I really want to know is like, did they already have them booked? Or was this a whole thing that was quickly pulled together to get out in front of their shadow drop?
I think that there's no way they didn't already have them booked. No way. Eurovision is too produced to try to cram something in like that. They were talking about they were rehearsing just the set changes for weeks.
Yeah, true.
But it definitely was amazing and was the best part of Eurovision this year. I like the song that won. I'm not mad about that. I think there were some other really good ones that didn't do so well. And I think there are some people who are going to be cursed by the Fae for their votes. But
yeah, because there was absolutely a group that were effectively Elder Scrolls Dryads. So yeah, I mean, like during the first show or like their first performance, they had more of a forest sprite vibe going on, and for this one they were absolutely sea sprites. So
and their song was definitely like the metal bridges are disintegrating and the oak is rising and whatever, like in their language. It was just it was unlike anything else that was on the stage this year, and it was great. And probably everyone who didn't vote for it is going to end up cursed somehow. They're very much some sort of fae.
Yes, they're absolutely going to end up with a changeling. It's their fault. Anyway. But yeah, like I mean, if you have never watched Eurovision, I highly suggest you do. There are reasonable ways to do this that don't require a VPN. Namely, there's a Swedish television channel that like leaves their broadcast wide open to the public, so that tends to be how I've watched it.
And it means I end up sort of rooting for Sweden as the home team. And their song was really good this year. I was sad it didn't do a little bit better.
So officially Peacock is who hosts it in the United States, but apparently they cut off like the last performance.
What?
Weird.
Yeah, because it ran too long or something. I don't know. I saw people complaining about it that were watching off of Peacock, that it just kind of abruptly cut. Ash, what is a unfortunate rhythm-based discovery?
So over the past little while, I've gotten a chance to play some games at various places. There's a free play arcade. Well, you have to pay to get in, but after that, it's a free play arcade in San Diego that is extremely nice. And while I was there, I got to play some of the newest version of the Taiko no Taijujin game. This is a game that I've played before. It has it's gotten several console versions here. It recently got a PC version, which was a bit of a shock.
Is this the drumming one?
Yeah, this is the drumming one. And I've played it before. I have the normal plastic drum. And it's fun enough. But then I played it in an arcade. And playing it on the big drum with big wooden drumsticks is just so much more fun. This is a really entertaining game. I would like to play more of it this way. I got a chance to play it a bit more this past weekend, and yep, actually, this is the thing I really like. This is a problem because the rollout to US arcades of the official English version has been lacking at best. Getting a machine into a house is a thing that you can do, but should not. They are huge.
Yeah, that was
expensive.
My fear, is that you were going to get on Rakuten or something like that and ship one across the ocean.
I would rely on somebody else to import it first. Thank you very much. But it is possible to get a arcade-sized drum head and something sturdy enough that you can beat on it with wooden sticks. So that's a thing I'm now looking into doing because, yeah, okay, this game is a lot of fun, and turns out it's a lot more fun when you get to use the big stuff.
It kind of makes me wonder if there's a way to DIY with this with actual drum heads.
Yes. I'm in a Discord for various rhythm game controller building things. Yes, absolutely, you can DIY this. I do not have the desire to do that amount of woodworking. Various other rhythm games have buttons and things like that you can, make stuff on a 3D printer. Not so much for a giant drum head you have to hit with big sticks.
I was going to ask, how much bigger are the sticks?
Much bigger. A lot of people like to use, the sticks in the arcade are just big wooden, rods.
Mm-hmm.
People who are good at this game like to use actual drumstick, things called bachi.
Now, because I know this is a difficulty, is this still something where you would probably want to play with headphones in?
I don't think playing with headphones in is a requirement of many or any rhythm game, provided your sound is calibrated decently.
Okay.
I know they tell, the console versions of Taiko whatever tell you this. The PC version doesn't even tell you this.
Okay.
A lot of that game's issues are caused by the reality of playing on a TV.
Yes.
And I have it on PC where I can use the small drum and not have to worry about timing issues nearly as much.
I wonder if timpani mallets would work, or if that would throw off your rhythm.
You could probably do it. Those would probably be too bouncy.
Okay. I'm just thinking they're a nice soft felt that tend to be large sticks.
So the funny thing is Namco sells some official ones specifically to use in the arcade if you don't want to use whatever the arcade is providing for you. They are still just wooden sticks. And
I guess if you were desperate and you had any semblance of woodworking equipment, you could round over some dowel rods.
You could do that, yeah.
Definitely seems interesting.
I bet it's a lot of fun. Because yes, the small drum definitely every time you hit it, it shifts on you.
Yep, that's my major problem with it. That, and you have to hit it really hard to trigger these side things relative to what it feels like you should have to do on a plastic drum. The big drum, it's whatever. You hit this pretty hard, but it's a big giant thing and specifically designed to be hit pretty hard.
I wonder if enough of the hit would get through on a practice pad.
No way.
Instead of a drum head. You think that would just absorb it and just spread out the hit too much?
Yeah, already the tiny plastic ones are probably, there's more thud to them than a practice pad, but people tend to mod them to make them more sensitive if they tend to use them long term. Part of me wonders if they're going to start selling the drumsticks in the States now that they're bringing the game to the States.
I would not be surprised if there's a percussion manufacturer that already makes a pair very similar. They would not be cheap, but
I feel surprisingly, the percussion manufacturers are not really interested in selling stuff to people who play rhythm games.
No, I mean, but like,
Yeah, but like
these are originally drumsticks designed for what like
you
Kodra
could buy
drums
an
or-
actual pair of Taiko Bachi for like $20.
Yeah,
That's
like,
the thing you could just buy in the
I would-
US.
I would not be surprised if somebody like Vic Firth makes something similar.
I would not expect Big Firth to make anything like this, though. They do not
Oh.
care about non-Western percussion.
I don't know. They used to have some really freaking big drumsticks.
I would still be incredibly surprised if they
Oh, you're probably
made things along
right.
these lines.
So right before the show, we did the thing that we often did, where we started talking about a topic that I then paused and bumped. So we could actually talk about it on the show. Last Epoch has had a series of patches that have added a bunch of quality of life since the release of the league. So there was a big patch that added like regex filters to all the things that you can do for loot filters and your bank and things like that. So that was cool. However, they actually had to release a bit of a nerf because the imprint system was a little too powerful. So
I think that might be putting it mildly.
So basically what happened and what was intended was that you were supposed to put an item in one of the imprint slots on your Atlas tree, and it would make it so that it was more likely for items that are similar to that to drop. Similar was like a bunch of different like variables. So like you put a unique ring in there, it was intended to be possible that you could get any unique ring as a result, or at least any unique ring of a specific base, or like there was a post that basically had like these are all the layers of relation that we wanted to do. But what actually happened was if you had an item socketed and it triggered, it could only drop the item you socketed. So in practice, like what would happen is it would trigger and you would get several of the item that you had socketed, like just all of a sudden. And it tended to skew towards like the LP level that you had socketed as well. So it was pretty easy to print just a bunch of uniques of a specific type.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what they were trying to fix. However, when they fixed it, they maybe went a little far because then folks reported that they were never seeing the items that they had imprinted. So I don't know exactly what the issue was, but apparently they fixed it again, and now it's closer to the original printing of uniques, but not quite as prolific.
But I think this is a case like we've seen before where they obviously wanted to nerf how it was originally, but they also don't hate fun. So once it got nerfed and it was maybe a little too nerfed, instead of just saying, oh, we'll fix it next season, they just fixed it and let people have fun.
Yep. And that's pretty great. And the other thing that they just added, which is amazing, because this was an annoyance for me. So when you zone into a map, you have objective markers basically pointing you towards the objectives that you have to complete in that map. When they put in tombs, they use the exact same marker. So you never knew, am I heading towards the thing I need to do to complete this map, or am I heading towards a tomb? So they put in a unique marker that is specific to tombs so that you can always determine whether or not you are going to an objective or going to a tomb, which is amazing.
The other quality of life thing, I think it might have been in the first round of patches, but is amazing. And something I think we've been begging for a while is it used to be whenever you would kill a boss, instead of putting you back at the version of the monolith map that had the vendor and your stash and whatever, it put you back at like the neutral map where there's no NPCs and no stash. And so every time you killed a boss, you basically either had to go back to town to use your stash, or you had to run another map before you could get to the vendor and your stash. And now, when you kill a boss, it puts you in the same place it puts you when you finish any other map. And you can use your inventory, you can sell your crap. It seems like such a tiny thing, but when you're chain running things and then you hit that boss and then can't use your stash, it's really frustrating. And
Well,
they
because
fixed it.
it ends up creating a scenario where you're basically like running your next map with a full inventory if you didn't want to go back to town. Like, and I try and stay out of the end of time as much as I can. Because like I don't really want to be around other players. I mean, in a perfect world, I would be able to zone into, like, I refer to that room as the ready room. And in a perfect world, I would be able to zone into that room and then have access to everything that I need in that one little spot. They're getting closer, and I guess there's some specific tech. So every Friday, EHG Mike does a live stream and he answers questions from the community, and he also teases stuff, and they're actively working on season 3 stuff, and he's occasionally teasing new monster types that they're releasing for season 3. I guess the next season is going to be heavily focused on the Necromancer, specifically the Necromancer and I think Lich, since Warlock is in a decent-ish space.
The rest of Acolyte feels a little old in comparison.
Right. Yeah, like, because like Acolyte doesn't have any of the I don't remember what they've specifically referred to it as, but like
Threshold passives.
Threshold okay, yeah, those things. Yeah, those are really great because those really do kind of help you build your character. Like, because how many points do I want to go into this? I want to go in the amount that allows me to get the maximum benefit.
It creates a bit of an interesting decision where you decide between, okay, do I just spend enough points to get this secondary benefit, or do I want all the points of this talent that is giving me some benefit that is good for my character?
And it's usually, for me, I find this is a way for me to spend talents as I'm leveling up. And then once I'm at the end of my build, it's like, okay, now I can go back and figure out what do I want next.
Yeah, there's a bunch of reasons this system is actually pretty great.
Yep. I mean, it does a really good push-pull between all the points and bare minimum points, because there's reasons for both. But anyway, there's still a lot of classes that are missing those, and one of the biggest ones is Necromancer and Lich currently. So it'll be interesting to. I guess they're reworking a lot of the skills. Like they showed off a reworked Blood Rip where it's like a line attack instead of a reverse fireball, for lack of a better term. And I think it will pull in blood from everything in that path, not just the target.
Blood Rip is a mechanically useful skill currently that is extremely underwhelming to use.
Yes.
Maybe they're going to make Acolyte into the Lion class. Chthonic Fissure is already sort of driving them in that direction.
Yeah, but Chthonic Fissure is like only for... It's the Warlock specific, right?
Yeah, it's the thing you get directly respecting into Warlock.
I am curious to know more details about what they changed with this. So is it just like, if I, for example, want a unique shield, I should put any unique shield in? Or I should try to get the unique shield I want?
The best scenario is you want to imprint the thing that you want to use. Because just because you found one doesn't mean you're only ever going to want that one, because you're going to, like, they've given you a bunch of levers to try and perfect it. So, I mean, you can, if you get low LP versions, you can throw them in the turtle, trying to upgrade them to higher LPs, or removing all the LP from it so that you can then throw them in Nemesis eggs. So, like, there's this really interesting system of, like, multiple ways of second chancing items. And if you have a high LP, unique, but it's got crappy rolls on it, you can sacrifice another high LP unique to re-roll it. And legendaries count as high LP. So like if you threw an item in an egg and it somehow ended up with 4 stats on it, that is now an LP4 item in the eyes of the game.
Oh,
and
interesting.
You can sacrifice it to a real LP4 item to basically divine the item, re-roll it.
Oh, interesting.
So like there's all these things, like all these items now have value because you can make multiple passes at trying to get the perfect item. Yeah, I'm constantly impressed at how much effort they are putting into just incrementally improving the game. I mean, I expect my not RF build will eat a nerf, but like I kind of expect it to I expect it to also be like still functional.
I can only think of one exception of builds they've just nerfed out of the game. And even then, that build is not really nerfed out of the game. Just you have to play with a different skill now.
I mean, they've pretty explicitly said that they don't want to nerf builds completely into the ground. They just want to bring them back in band.
Yeah, it's the Sorcerer Spark Charge node used to trigger off of any skill that costs more than like 40-some mana, which meant that you could use Frost Claw, a skill that hits like upwards of 15 times.
Mm.
And that was a bit much. So now now it is specifically Static Orb that does this, regardless of how much mana it costs. A skill that hits somewhere around 5 times normally. You can hit large bosses many more times than that, but build still works. You just can't use Frostclaw with it anymore. Of course, Frostclaw hitting like 15 times is still a thing you can use for many other builds.
This week, Enshrouded also got a patch and a significant graphical update as a part of it.
Yeah, holy cow. I mean, Enshrouded has always been pretty. I think about it compared to Valheim, they're similar kinds of games, but in the graphical style, the art style is very different. But yeah, they really reworked a lot of the visuals. They also just added a ton more stuff again. I haven't had a ton of time to play around with it. I ended up starting a fresh character. I usually do that.
This.
Yeah, I usually do that when there's a patch, just because they frequently change things. They're not just adding to the end game, so it feels worthwhile to kind of play through stuff again. Once I play through a little bit of it, I might go back to my higher level character and try to see some of the later game stuff that they've added as well. But just hopping into the world, running around in the shroud, everything just looks so gorgeous. So I'm really looking forward to kind of playing around with some of the other stuff they've added, though, because they've added a gem system for weapons, and they've also kind of changed the day-night cycle a little bit. So there's different enemies at night, and there's also different resources available at night. So it incentivizes you to wander around at night, even though there's more difficult encounters out at night, which I think is kind of nice. And then there's a few other things I think they've added, but they've also added some cosmetic stuff. I think, armor die system, a little bit more in-game character customization stuff. So little nice touches. But for me, it was just kind of shocking loading into the game and just seeing how thoroughly they had reworked the landscape and the visuals. I've restarted fresh characters in this game a bunch of times at this point and had gotten extremely used to how the opening sequence looks and how the first little area where you put your first base looks, and it looks different and it looks amazing.
So much more foliage. Like, it's actually kind of hard to to just see the world around you a little bit.
And there's some just really subtle things too. Like, there used to be just like generic cartoony red mushrooms that were, one of the first things that you could harvest in the area around your first camp. And now they're like, they have a specific name, and their visuals been reworked, and they look much more naturalistic, and they're like, even the little mushroom looks great now. it's it's just, it's been fun to go back and said, especially since I've sort of started new characters a bunch of times. It feels like starting a whole new game this time, just because everything is so gorgeous looking. But yeah, I am a little concerned about some of my tree and shrub farming techniques and what that's gonna look like with with these new vegetation models. We'll see. Usually I just make a giant pen full of wall-to-wall shrubs, and at this, with the new models, it might be completely impenetrable.
I mean, you can still run through them and spam the harvest button, because like I've done a lot of that, but it is not as easy to navigate as it once was. Things now clip through that didn't used to clip through.
Honestly, it's probably just as well, because the alternative would probably be less fun.
Yeah. I made pretty decent progress. Like, I had rescued the first two crafters and took out two wells and got a tower, and then I decided that I wanted to hollow out the side of a mountain and spent the
As
rest
you
of the morning
do.
doing that.
I swear you are actually a dwarf.
Well, like I just like I don't know why I never did this, because it's kind of brilliant. But I placed my starting fire thing on the very edge of a cliff, and then I just started building off the cliff. And
Oh, nice.
then that way, like, nothing can really get to me because I'm just off the edge of a cliff. Like, because this game doesn't have gravity.
And there's some cliffs that are probably really useful for travel to jump off of.
Yeah, like once you get your glider, most of my going places starts with me going up somewhere high and jumping off so that I can glide to someplace else.
But yeah, you're way further along than me. I haven't had that much time to spend with it. And I admit that for this character, I did also just set all the settings to sort of story mode, so that I can mess around with crafting easily and kind of get a feel for things. And then I'll probably switch back to my higher level character on a normal world.
There's also a significant patch in the works for Dwarven Realms.
Oh man, this one was made just for me. So good. So their next season starts in about a week. And I think just because they're a smaller studio, instead of having a PTR or anything like that for the new season, they do a chaos week in the week leading up to new season. So the patch is in, you can play all the new stuff, but nothing is really fully tuned yet. Usually there's a bunch of patches during the week. Lots of things will get tuned and changed for the actual season, but it's a great chance to just play around with the new stuff. And the biggest new stuff is that now I can be an undead necromancer. and life is good.
Nice.
So they added last season. They added fist weapons and one or two new races. This season they added scythes and a couple more races. And so yes, I can have a scythe. I can be a necromancer, and I can be an undead, and it's great.
I feel so far out of the loop. I didn't know they added races at all.
Yeah, that was just last season, and I didn't play that much last season. But yeah, this has been really fun, and I was curious because Dwarven Realms is sort of an auto shooter. I was kind of curious how minions would work and how they would feel in this kind of game. And the answer is they're great. I hit things with my scythe, and I have all the other weapons you have a primary and secondary magical attack. For the scythe, you have a primary and secondary, but each of those has an active and a passive. And so the passive generally is what is summoning a bunch of minions. And then the active is whatever the active skill is. So every skill is a combination of summoning one or more of a specific type or group of minions and whatever the active ability is. And it's pretty great. So I'm running around, I have some wraiths, and when I use that ability, they will basically lifesteal for me, which is handy. And then I have a whole squad of a bunch of other mixed minions. And if I throw my scythe, it will cut through them. If it kills them, they will explode and give me a damage up buff. And then they'll respawn in like 5 seconds, maybe less. So it's just like an endless stream of me decapitating my own minions for fun and profit. It feels very silly. It's extremely enjoyable. I don't have a good sense of how it's tuned against the other weapons, especially because the tuning of everything is kind of in flux during the Chaos Week. But I'm going to mess around with it a little bit more this weekend, and then I am absolutely going to be playing a Necromancer build when the actual season starts.
I always think minions in this sort of game are interesting ever since the two birds in Vampire Survivor, really. Soulstone Survivor has minions that act fairly independently, but like unless you're taking a different skill to buff them, they don't do much more than another skill would.
Yeah, and this definitely feels similar to the minions in Soulstone Survivors. Like they're running around, they're not taking too much aggro from what I can tell, maybe a little bit. And they're doing some damage, taking some extra passive skill points that also give me just additional minions and buff them a little bit. But it seems like the biggest thing that's happening is that when I murder them, they explode and I get a damage up buff. So.
Nice.
And I know there's still a few more skills. I haven't gotten that far, so I haven't unlocked everything yet, but this combo so far has been pretty fun.
I think last in this list of things, Slormancer. This game is deeply entertaining.
It's so fun.
Like I love the animation of the Huntress specifically. I love that the Huntress skips around everywhere and looks happy. It's just goofy.
It's really goofy. I love just the very beginning of the game and like there's just a little couple of story beats that happen with the first couple of characters that you meet. It's just really entertaining.
I have not gotten terribly far in to where I'm actually like I'm not really doing a lot of things that are modifying the base abilities yet, like because I think that starts once you unlock essentially that second tier down of abilities. but I've heard you can do all the things that we're used to doing in Last Epoch and Path of Exile with this game and convert them to do various other things and tweak the abilities.
Yeah, I've gotten maybe a little bit in, not super far. I started out with the Huntress, and then I decided that actually the Mage was a little bit more my jam. And so I sort of lost a little bit of progress, but not too much. And it's just been a good time. But yeah, the skills, I've already definitely been able to make some choices early on to change the way that the skills play. So like my regular essentially magic missile thing, I upgraded it so it will echo. So I'll fire it once and then immediately it'll fire another 50% effective bolt at the same target or in the same direction. And that's been fun. I've been dropping books on people. It stuns them. That's kind of great. It definitely has a cute sense of humor.
Yeah, I think Mage is the only one that has real minion type mechanics built into it.
Yeah, it's got some clones. And I think the Huntress has turrets. So that was my initial thought, is that I would do that, but then I tried out the Mage during the sort of introductory quests and decided that that felt a little bit better to me, at least at the low levels. But it's extremely charming, and it feels very complete for a little indie ARPG.
Yeah, it's apparently been in early access for a while, and it just recently released out of early access. So this is effectively the full game. I kind of dig that you basically are really playing an account, not individual characters, and you can flip back and forth between characters whenever you want.
Yeah, that has been nice. I need to find whatever villager lets me have the stash back, because my Huntress got a unique item that heals you. It would be nice to give that to my mage, but I don't think I can do that until I have a stash.
Yeah, I've not found that yet. And I was going to ask you if you'd found that yet, because like I got a really nice pair of gloves that, my warrior would want to use, but not the huntress would want to use.
Yeah. No, I haven't quite gotten there yet. But again, I've only run a few of the little story campaign maps. I did at least get to the point where I am no longer using the base weapon, and the weapons just automatically upgrade as you kill things, which is really fun.
Yeah, I kind of dig that basically you're just upgrading base types essentially, and then whatever points you spend in the skills is what really seems to matter, other than the base type.
Yep.
Does this mean loot acquisition is less of a thing?
Oh no, there's still tons of loot acquisition. Yeah. There's, I forget how many inventory slots, but it's just that your weapon, because the weapons seem like they're fairly build defining. And so instead of having the constant ARPG struggle of like, oh, I got a level 5 unique that I wanted and I need it for the rest of the game, which means I have to keep finding higher level versions of it as I level up, or finding ways to buff it or whatever. Instead, it just automatically levels up the weapon as you're leveling up, like as you kill things. It's feeding into the weapon and into your own skills.
And then you collect Slorm to leverage your skills.
Yes. That was the other thing. I don't know if you had seen this yet, but one of the missions. So I got this weapon and it started leveling up, and my immediate fear was, oh, I'm going to level this thing up and then I'm going to find another weapon and it's going to start out at level 1 again and be kind of a pain. And then immediately the game was like, here is an amulet that automatically makes whatever weapon you're wielding equal to the highest level weapon in your inventory. Problem solved.
I have not found that yet. That seems useful.
Yeah. So they've obviously put some good thought into making it player friendly, good quality of life.
I think the other thing about this game, and I've not really tried it yet, but it seems like it would be the ideal ARPG for Steam Deck.
Yeah, I keep meaning to try it. I haven't yet either.
Just the way that it controls looks like it would control extremely well with a controller.
Yeah. And it does, it's got skill points, it's got, points to level up, passive skills and active skills, and pretty much everything that I have interacted with so far, except for leveling up the weapons, you can just respec at any time with no cost, which is super great. Just let me play around with my build and mess around with things and not penalize me for trying different things out.
The thing that I dig about it over like Chronomicon, I think that was the name of the game.
Oh, yeah, Chronomicon,
yeah, is that game has a lot of very obtuse stats that you don't necessarily know what exactly they do. So it's kind of hard to tell, like, is this item better than this item? But this game seems to have a very straightforward design language, so it's pretty easy to tell whether or not this is a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a little clearer and more user friendly. It also, I prefer the art style in this one significantly more.
Yeah, Chronomicon kind of had programmer art problem.
Aww.
I mean, like, it is a really good game. Mechanically, it was a lot of fun. I spent a lot of time on it, but yeah, this one definitely is visually more appealing. And I foresee spending a good amount of time with it, getting to know it. Definitely looking forward to playing through the story and seeing what some of the end game activities look like.
So right now on Steam, it's like creature collection time, and there's a bunch of demos of games. And Ash, it sounds like you've been trying some of them.
Yeah, I have been trying a bunch of games. It is apparently Creature Collector Fest. Before I talk about any of the other things I'm going to say, Digimon Cyber Sleuth, a game that is available on basically everything, is out on PC and it's 90% off, so you can pick it up for like $5. It is one of the best creature collecting games to have come out in the past many years. But with that out of the way, I've been playing demos of new things. The most unique of these is definitely Voidling Bound, a game that is decided that creature battling is, for other people. This is a game this is a third-person shooter with monster collection aspects, where you play as the creatures.
Tell me more.
You are part of like a research team, and you're studying this planet, but everything is swallowed up by the blight. So you use these creatures called voidlings to fight back against it. You sort of mentally link up with them, and they go down to the planet, and you have shooter gameplay, basically, to fight like the blight creatures and clean up everything. It is by far the most unique game I've seen in this thing, and it seems very cool.
It sounds really fun.
I think probably the game I think I am most interested in that I tried was a game that I, quite frankly, already knew I was going to buy. I'm glad the demo did not dissuade me of this. It's called Aethermancer, and it is the next game from the Monster Sanctuary folks. It is putting a crowded entry into the combination roguelike creature collector genre. This category is so packed with things. But I like this one. It's got a very unique resource system involving different types of mana to control whether or not you can attack, things like that. So you have to manage your team composition, along with when your creatures die, you don't get them back. So you have to make do with what you got in order to beat champion creatures and try to make it to the next biome.
I think that one has been on my wish list, so I'm definitely going to check that out.
It's been on my wish list for a while, too. Again, it's the Monster Sanctuary folks the guys that made a Metroidvania creature collecting game before.
Which is a heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was really good.
The other games I played that seem promising are a game called Yowling Mythical Journey. This one's apparently been in early access for a while, but I hadn't picked it up. Still haven't picked it up. Did play the demo, though. It's a an auto battler, but you have a team, and when you're not in what is their equivalent of a trainer battle, you can sort of influence things by casting spells, one of which is basically the capture spell, but fireballs, whatever else, in order to influence the auto battle stuff that's going on. It's got a style that is adorable, a translation that is a little suspect, but it looks really nice and seems pretty fun. And finally, a game called Synth Beasts, which I'm interested in mostly for its premise. If you're familiar with early Pokemon stuff, including the whole, Mewtwo movie thing, this is basically making you, the player, as the escaped lab experiment. And it plays in a real-time way, sort of top-down Zelda-y, but you can sort of capture creatures by defeating them, turn into them, decide whether or not you want to kill all the humans. Normal escaped experiment things. So it seems to have a bit of promise. It's on Kickstarter at the moment. It still needs a lot more of a lot of things, but it played the demo to its completion and rather enjoyed it. I do have to say, though, there are so many games in these categories. We were talking about how when Temtem was being announced, like in 2018, something like that, there were no Pokemon-like games on PC. By the time Temtem actually released, which was 2022, that wasn't really true. And at this point, there are it's so many, so many. I think my pick for Pokemon-like game that you can play on the PC is probably still Coromon. That one is very much like Game Boy Advance era Pokemon game, except a bit more cleaned up in the quality of life department. And I think it's just interesting to see what all has been going on in this genre. Because until Scarlet and Violet, Pokemon had been, let's say, stagnant for a while. They hadn't been doing much new. Scarlet and Violet may have been a little buggy, but I did appreciate them trying to make something new out of them. I think when Digimon Cyber Sleuth came out, I said I liked it better than the Pokemon game that came out that year, which I'm pretty sure was Sun and Moon. So yeah, lots of them. There are many, many demos, many more than what I just said. Give them a try.
So I've been back playing quite a bit of Guild Wars 2 over the last week and some change. I was kind of going through I don't know what I want to play phase, and I went back and started playing it because it's kind of a good, the thing I like about Guild Wars 2 is it has a lot of interesting default gaming behaviors. There are things that I like doing in it that I can just drop straight into without thinking much about it. And then since I was back, I decided, I will work on crafting my next legendary. And I have now crafted my 5th legendary. I have Kudzu now.
Yay.
And I feel like the legendary starter kits, I think they were intended to ease people into crafting legendaries. And at least in my case, they have certainly worked.
No kidding.
Because I now have a sword, an axe, a great sword, a hammer, and a longbow.
That hammer was really the biggest thing for me because Gift of Colossus is one of the most expensive legendary gifts to craft.
Right. And the thing is the starter kit really, it's more than half of the way there to crafting a legendary. Because you get the weapon,
it is
the gift of the weapon.
It's the precursor, the weapon gift, and one of Gift of Might or Gift of Magic.
Yep.
It's definitely more than halfway, yeah.
And the thing is they now reliably sell a legendary starter kit every quote-unquote season, and you get a choice item for the Gift of Might or Magic. So
nice.
You could just buy another one. So that's how I ended up crafting this one, is I got the 1,000 Wizard Chore points to buy the next legendary box, and the only thing that I really wanted out of it was a harpoon gun, and I'm not going to go out of my way to craft a legendary harpoon gun, so I mostly just stole the other gift from it. And then I had to farm up a new Gift of Battle and a new world exploration, so that took some time. But after I finished world completion, I got impatient and I crafted the remaining 31 Mystic Clovers through the Mystic Clover recipe, which I beat the odds on, but
I
it's
still
still
have never used the Mystic Clover recipe because I know what my luck looks like.
it's a bad idea. Like it's
But Bel
not
has Bel luck.
It's
like
true.
I barely beat the odds. So basically, the odds are 1/3 of the time you will produce a Mystic Clover. The other 2/3 of the time you will produce something else that is useful, but not what you actually want at that moment.
If you already have the Gift of Might and Gift of Magic, the other thing it's producing is no longer useful.
Though you can sell them. Like they are
fair.
not worth a zero amount of money. I mean, they are very sellable, but at some point I'll want to craft one of these other legendaries and we'll need another Gift of Might and Magic.
The possibility also exists that you might want to craft a not season 1 legendary and need a Mystic Tribute.
Oh my god, that I looked up because like realistically I want a staff next, right? And the staff that I'm most interested in is Nevermore.
I am most of the way to Nevermore.
Season 2 legendaries has really broken me on legendaries.
Season 2 legendaries are the hardest ones by a lot. They're the hardest ones by a lot.
Like you have to craft your precursor.
Yep.
And you also
which is not cheap.
Have to basically craft 2 might and 2 magic.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, yep. It is.
And you have.
I think it's actually fewer top end mats, but because you need all the lower end mats, it is more expensive.
Right. Because those blue items are still costly. Like they're not cheap. So I don't know if I will go down that rabbit hole. I would really like to have Nevermore.
You should make an Aurene legendary.
I don't like any of the Aurene legendary appearances.
Really? Even the various other dragon looks?
I mean, I guess I haven't really paid attention to those. I do not like the default Aurene appearance.
That's fair.
The prismatic rainbow crystal sword thingy or whatever weapon it is.
That's the hammer I plan to go for.
But maybe one of the other dragon appearances might look cool. I just really like the look of the Nevermore staff.
Yes, I agree. I think Nevermore looks amazing.
So after completing the legendary, I've kind of been in a holding pattern of like, what do I do next? So I caught up the story and I am now in a holding pattern waiting on the next patch to drop. I bought the quest to get an infusion and a ascended accessory from the new content area, and I completed it, and it was pretty easy to do. And now I don't come up with good ideas.
Uh-oh.
Ash, I'm slowly working on vision.
I mean, that seems reasonable. Cough.
Like, there's a lot to that. Vision is what, a legendary accessory?
I believe it is a legendary accessory, yes.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you're doing that before Aurora.
I had the quest starter for Vision in my log, so that was just the one, and I've not spent that much time in Dragonfall, and I know a big part of it is spending a lot of time in Dragonfall.
And the other Season 4 zones.
And to be fair, like, all of the Season 4 zones are kind of bangers. They're all good.
To be fair, yeah, I guess you don't have to do Chalice of Tears for Supervision. You do have to do it for Aurora, possibly twice, depending.
Like, I think I would rather do the Season 4 zones than a lot of the zones. So,
I mean, one of the Season 3 zones, doing it for Return to achievements, basically cost me to quit the game. So, not going in those is probably for the best.
Like, they're fine to do for the story, just not fine to 100% them.
Yep.
Like, I guess the other Guild Wars 2 adjacent thing that happened this week is we actually pulled together a group and did a dungeon and did a fractal before we ran out of time.
Yep. That was a lot of fun.
I love fractals so much.
It was basically me and Ammo and Saul and Sita, which turned out to be a pretty cromulent group there.
You do not need a lot of people to do that stuff.
Like, we had to do the story mode dungeon because, like, none of us on the characters that we were on had done the dungeons. So
I
At
had
some
not
point.
done any dungeons or fractals. That was my first for both of those things. But it was very cool. I had a great time.
I'm
Yep.
glad. I think those are really good group content.
I mean, fractals are really nice bite-sized content, and I deeply appreciate their existence.
I was about to say, do season 1 legendaries not require you to go and like get stuff out of fractals?
It's the weapon
Nope.
gift that you need. So first of all, no. You craft precursors, you do, but if you're using it from the kit, you don't because you have the precursor already. But also, the precursors are just exotic weapons. You can just find them or buy them.
And honestly, like anymore, thanks to the existence of the precursor kits, most of the Gen 1 legendaries have plummeted in price. And for somewhere between 10 and 20 gold, you can just go buy one.
Okay.
There is still a collection for some of them. They are roughly the same difficulty as Season 2 ones, but there are a few unique benefits you can get for it. I know the one for Colossus gives you the item that gives you the Colossus effect, the liquid metal effect on your arm, without having to have the weapon equipped. But you do technically, again, this is for the weapon gift, so you don't need any more, I guess, have to do dungeons for currency required to craft the weapon gift.
Yeah, you either have to do the dungeons or you have to do the World versus World track. And honestly, since I like to do World versus World, I may keep the Gift of Battle track running for a while. It's not a bad way to get clovers.
7 clovers on that track too, something like that.
Something like that, yeah. There's basically 2
Or is it
points where
2?
you're getting clovers. I don't remember how many, but it's several.
Okay.
And like I have proved that I can do that entire track in a day. I didn't do it this time in a day. Yeah, it's pretty fast anymore.
Does that like require boosters or
No, it's just like if you can find a group and you roll with a group, you pretty much go to tier 6 contribution almost immediately. And yes, if you can stick at that, you are gaining at the maximum amount. Like it's not quite so dependent upon like getting into a group that's turning things over quickly to progress, just literally being in the zone and keeping your contribution up, whether that be through defending or through taking objectives or just skirmishing out in a field somewhere. Like you keep earning at basically the same clip. I mean, I have been lucky that I've been able to roll into groups pretty easily, though a lot of the squads are locked down pretty tight.
Really?
Yeah. The group that we're in seems to like to force people onto Discord.
Grumble, grumble, grumble.
I don't want to be on Discord. I don't mind doing World versus World content with people, but I don't necessarily want to hang out with World versus World people all the time. I think that's all the things I can think of. Anybody have any other short topics?
Not really.
We're almost to June. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Switch 2 supplies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have not gotten into the Nintendo lottery as of yet, so here's hoping at some point.
I got an email saying they're starting the Nintendo lottery, but not an email saying I got an invite to it.
Right, exactly. Like I know of people who have gotten emails to buy. Also, we're starting to see spoilers for Path of Exile 3.26.
Is that the Path of Exile 1 League?
Yeah.
Are they finally working on it?
I guess so.
It seems like they are, and it also seems like this may be an Atlas expansion because they've teased Atlas stuff that is either coming from the Shaper or Xana.
Does that mean the storyline of the Atlas is going to make sense again?
No. Why would they do that? Why would they do that?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe redo the story, somehow make it like all make sense. Make the whole of Cirrus not just come out of nowhere.
I agree. This would be nice.
It'll be interesting. I hope they don't screw the Atlas up. Because like
really liking the Weaver Atlas.
I wish Weaver as a faction wasn't quite so weird to level, because basically the only way you can level it is by plunking down maps.
No, I mean,
it seems pretty straightforward.
It levels similar to the other factions. Gaining or spending the faction currency levels it.
If you mean like Atlas points, then yeah, that's mostly from. Although you get some from levels, and you get some from running unique maps.
Yeah.
It just seems to level much slower than some of the other factions do.
But buy more stuff.
I have already spent down all of my tomb rep multiple times. Anyway, I guess that's a show. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we will see you again next week.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.